Good morning. This is Mission Control Houston. We are live in the International Space Station Flight Control Room as we continue our coverage of SpaceX's 29th commercial resupply mission for NASA to the International Space Station. On your screen, you can see live views of the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft as it approaches the station. SpaceX updated its burn plan following a debris avoidance maneuver yesterday, moving the expected docking time about 10 minutes earlier to 4:10 a.m. Central Time, 5:10 a.m. Eastern Time. During the debris avoidance maneuver yesterday, the space station's Progress 85 thrusters fired for 5 minutes and 16 seconds as a precautionary measure to add distance from a fragment of a Russian SL-16 rocket body launched in 1992. The flight control team received a late notification of a repeating conjunction with this object following station's station's reboost on Thursday that could have resulted in the object passing within a range of 12 miles to 0.6 of a mile from the station during 4 consecutive orbits on Friday. NASA and Roscosmos ballistics officials coordinated the debris avoidance maneuver, and the crew was notified and was never in any danger. The maneuver increased the station's altitude at an apogee by 1.1 miles. The Dragon spacecraft, which you're seeing on your screen now, launched atop a Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Thursday, November 9th at 7:29 p.m. Central Time, 8:28 p.m. Eastern Time. The Dragon spacecraft will dock autonomously to the forward-facing port of the station's Harmony module and spend about 1 month attached to station before returning to Earth, delivering approximately 6,500 pounds of cargo to crew. The NASA Flight Control team here in Mission Control Houston and the SpaceX team in Hawthorne, California entered into integrated operations a short time ago and also pulled go for the approach initiation or AI burn, which was executed at approximately 2:38 a.m. Central Time, 3:38 a.m. Eastern Time. The approach initiation burn lasts for about a minute and a half to begin bringing the spacecraft up and under the station. Coming up in about 17 minutes, there will be an AI mid-course burn, which will help fine-tune Dragon's path following the approach initiation burn on its way to Waypoint Zero. Waypoint Zero is a point approximately 400 meters below the station, and if everything on Dragon and the station looks good, the vehicle will continue through Waypoint Zero and on to Waypoint 1. During today's rendezvous and docking operations, the Dragon spacecraft will go through a number of burns and milestones. It already completed the approach initiation burn, which is the first in a series of milestones that it'll pass through. That approach initiation burn lasts about 90 seconds, and it starts to bring Dragon up and under the space station before it moves through those key checkpoints, including crossing the approach ellipsoid and the keep out sphere. Following the AI burn, there's a mid-course burn, and that is coming up in about 13 minutes, and that fine-tunes the path following the AI burn on its way to waypoint 0. Waypoint 0 is a position approximately 400 meters directly below the station, and the vehicle won't pause at waypoint 0, but continue on its path to the docking port. Waypoint 0 is inside the approach ellipsoid, but outside the keep out sphere. Both of those are imaginary shapes centered on the space station. The approach ellipsoid is a three-dimensional ellipsoid measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in the same family as the keep out sphere. Vehicles outside the approach ellipsoid have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory, which means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours, even if it lost all maneuvering. After we cross waypoint 0, it'll continue on to waypoint 1. Waypoint 1 is a spot approximately 220 meters directly in front of the space station, and it places Dragon on the docking axis, which is directly in front of the docking port. And a reminder, Dragon will be docking to the forward-facing port of the station's Harmony module today. Similar to waypoint 0, if everything looks good, Dragon will move through waypoint 1, cross the keep out sphere on its way to waypoint 2. Waypoint 2 is the final stop for Dragon before docking, and it's just 20 meters in front of the station. It'll pause here for about a minute before closing in for contact and capture, just to make sure everything is good with the vehicle and with station before proceeding on. After we proceed from waypoint 2, we'll reach contact and capture with the station. During this process, the capture ring on Dragon will interact with the international docking adapter on the Node 2 forward port of station to get the initial capture. Dragon then has 12 hooks, 2 sets of 6, that will start to engage for a hard capture. After there is a hard capture confirmed between Dragon and station, there will be a vacuum-tight seal, which is called the vestibule. This will then begin to be pressurized to match the same pressure as the station. They'll periodically pause during this process, checking for leak checks. And then once it is pressurized, the crew will begin to open the hatches on both the station and Dragon side. And later today, they'll start some cargo operations to unload the cargo that was launched on Dragon. There will also be a couple of umbilicals deployed, and this is to allow Dragon to get power and data from the station, and this will move Dragon into what's known as acquiescent mode, which essentially means Dragon will become an integrated piece of the station once it's docked.
Reach the station on switchbound 2 for trash or stowage.
Go ahead on 2.
Hey, as I was working here at the lab, Deck 1, Deck 2 area with the rodent habitats, I noticed this mesh bag that has the old Cevis cycling shoes. So when we installed teal Cevis, we switched to new cycling shoes, and we temp stowed our old Cevis cycling shoes in this mesh bag. Can we trash these now?
Copy your question, Andy. We'll check and get back to you.
Just to clarify, I think I already trashed my set of old Cevis cycling shoes, so this mesh bag just contains Laurel's, Jaws, and Satoshi's.
Copy that.
You just heard some conversation between ESA astronaut Andy Mogensen, who's currently aboard the space station working through his day. Once we get a little bit closer to docking, two of the space station astronauts, NASA astronauts Jasmine Mogbelli and Laurel O'Hara, will be monitoring the Dragon cargo spacecraft from inside the space station during its approach and docking. They act as an additional person in the loop, just in case they need to take control of the vehicle at any time. Currently on board the space station, we have the Expedition 70 crew, which began on September 27th of this year, and that includes NASA astronauts Jasmine Mogbelli and Laurel O'Hara, ESA or European Space Agency astronaut Andreas Mogensen, JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Konstantin Borisov, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub. On your screen, we continue to see views of Dragon as it approaches the station. It's currently about 2,700 meters away from station and closing in, and we're about 6 minutes from the AI mid-course burn. From this view, you can see the nose cone deployed a little bit above the circular part of Dragon, and there's also a flashing light which serves as a visual aid for the spacecraft and kind of gives a visual reference of where it is in relation to station. Housed under the nose cone are some of the Draco thrusters and also Dragon's guidance, navigation, and control sensors. Dragon has some GPS units, and it also has a Dragon Eye system, which uses LiDAR, which is basically laser range finding sensors to determine range and range rate from station. And this LiDAR system is used during rendezvous and docking operations.